A baby was crying in the trash behind a billionaire's mansion. That's how my story starts. And the worst part is, the person who put her there was standing just a few feet away, pretending to be the perfect mother. My name is Maya, and for most of my life I've been the help. Housekeeper, cleaner, nanny when needed, invisible when convenient. You know what I mean, right? People tell you you're part of the family as long as you're useful. But the second something goes wrong, you're just the maid again. Yeah, that happened. I'd been working for the Richardson family in the hills of Los Angeles for 15 years. 15 years, wiping those marble counters, polishing those glass railings, folding napkins that cost more than my entire wardrobe. I knew that house better than anyone living in it. I knew which step creaked, which window stuck, what time the sun hit the pool just right. But I didn't know that behind all that glass and stone and designer furniture, there was a secret so dark it would nearly destroy me. It was a quiet evening, the kind that makes rich houses feel like museum pieces. The sun was going down, casting this soft orange glow over the long marble dining table. I was doing what I always did at the end of the day, wiping it down one last time, folding my microfiber cloth. Just right, whispering to myself, almost done. Maya, like I always did. It sounds silly, but when you've spent years serving other people's families, you come up with these little phrases to keep yourself moving. The house felt wrong that night, though. Too quiet. No footsteps from upstairs. No TV murmuring in the background. Clatter of pots from Sandra in the kitchen. Just the ticking of the antique clock in the hallway and the sound of my own breathing. I remember thinking, must be at some event again. And I pushed my cart toward the kitchen. Then I heard it. At first it was so faint, I thought it was the wind. A tiny trembling sound, like a whimper caught in a pillow. I stopped, tilted my head, listened. Silence. I shook it off, told myself I was imagining things started walking again. And then it came back. Clearer this time. Thin and high and broken. A baby's cry. Have you ever had your body react before your brain does? That cold rush under your skin. The racing heart. The way your stomach just drops. That's what hit me. I let go of the cleaning cart without even realizing it, and started running down the hallway toward the back of the house, my rubber soles smacking the polished floor. I pushed open the heavy service door and stepped out into the cool night air. Out there was the staff yard. Concrete. A line of trash bins, the fence. Nothing pretty. The city lights twinkled far below like some kind of backdrop. And that cry. That cry was coming from the bins. I swear my legs almost stopped working right there. No, please, no, I heard myself whisper. I walked toward the bins like I was walking into a bad dream I'd had before. The crying got louder with every step. I pulled one trash bag aside, then another, hands shaking so badly I could barely grip the plastic heart pounding in my throat. And then I saw her, a baby girl, curled between two black trash bags like she'd been tossed there by mistake. Her diaper was filthy. Her pink onesie stained her cheeks raw and shiny from endless crying. Her little lips were dry and cracked. Her tiny body shook with every breath, every sob. For a second, everything just froze. The house, the sky, the air in my lungs. It all stopped. Dear God! I choked out, dropping to my knees on the concrete. I didn't think. I didn't look around. I just scooped her into my arms. She grabbed my uniform with these desperate little hands like she thought I might disappear if she didn't hold on tight. Shh, sweetheart. Shh, I've got you. I've got you now. I whispered, holding her against my chest. Her crying shifted from desperate, panicked shrieks to broken little whimpers like she wanted to stop. But her body didn't trust that it was safe yet. I checked for cuts, bruises. Anything obvious. Nothing fresh. But the neglect was all over her. Now tell me honestly, if it were you right there behind a billionaire's mansion holding a baby you just pulled out of the trash, what would you think? Some stranger hopped the fence in broad daylight with a baby just to dump her in their bins. Or that whatever was wrong started inside that house. Before I could even finish that thought, the service door banged open behind me. Footsteps. Fast. Sharp. Maya. Oh my God. Where did you find her? Vanessa Richardson. Mrs. Richardson. The lady of the house. She was everything you'd expect from a billionaire's wife in Los Angeles. Perfect blonde curls that never seemed to move out of place, white designer dress, hugging all the right spots, heels that clicked like a metronome. Even in the staff yard, she looked like she was posing for a magazine cover. Her makeup was flawless. Not a single streak of mascara, not a smudge of eyeliner. She was in the trash, I said, still catching my breath, still cradling the baby like she'd disappear if I loosened my grip. Crying. Abandoned. Whoever did this, that's my baby Vanessa cut in, voice rising too fast. My Emma. She reached out from the baby arms, shaking like she was about to break down. But something didn't sit right. I've seen mothers who've been looking for their babies. I've seen that wild, desperate look. Vanessa didn't have it. Her breathing was steady, her dress spotless. No red marks on her face, no puffiness around her eyes, no trembling in her lips. She looked like she'd just come back from brunch, not from tearing the house apart. How long has she been missing? I asked carefully as I handed Emma over. I don't know, maybe 2 hours, Vanessa said. I was on calls in my room, and when I checked her crib, she was just gone. I thought I was losing my mind. The second Emma left my arms and landed in hers, that baby started screaming again. Louder, sharper, like she was scared. She's very dehydrated, I said. Stepping closer, instinct kicking in again. She needs water. A clean diaper. Probably a doctor. Yes, of course, Vanessa said. But there was no urgency, no panic in her tone. Just irritation. That bothered me. And then Richard came running out. His shirt was wrinkled tie, loose hair a mess. Richard Richardson, billionaire investor, father. The guy whose face you'd seen in business magazines. He looked genuinely terrified. His eyes went straight to Emma, and his whole body seemed to sag when he saw her. Maya found her. Vanessa cried out dramatically. Someone dumped our baby in the trash, Richard. Our baby. Richard took Emma from her gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. Emma's crying softened a little. Just a little. But her eyes stayed locked on me. Maya. Thank you, he said, voice shaking. If you hadn't been here, I just did what anyone would do, I said softly. No, he said, shaking his head. You saved her. And then Vanessa smiled at me. That tight, perfect little smile that corporate wives are trained to wear, the one that says thank you on the surface and know your place underneath. She has experience. She cooed. She raised her own kids, so she's a natural. That sentence punched me straight in the chest. 10 years. 10 years since my daughter died. 10 years of burying that pain under bleach and polish and other people's laundry. 10 years of walking past toy aisles in stores like they were landmines. And now I was standing there, holding a baby, who had clung to me like I was her whole world, listening to a woman like Vanessa say it, like a compliment, while something cold slid behind her eyes. That night, Richard went out and bought everything. Formula diapers, baby clothes in 3 sizes, wipes, lotions, little socks that made my throat tighten just looking at them. Vanessa said she was too exhausted from the trauma, and went upstairs to rest, leaving Emma downstairs in the kitchen with me. So that's what I did. I set a towel in the big farmhouse sink, ran warm water, and gave that baby a bath. I washed the trash smell out of her hair, wiped the dried tears from her cheeks, changed her clothes. She stared up at me with these big, dark eyes that looked like they were trying to figure out if I was real. "You're safe now," I whispered, drying her off and wrapping her in a soft blanket. "I promise you, you're safe now." I don't know if I was promising her or promising myself. I was just turning off the kitchen light when I saw her. Vanessa, standing in the doorway, arms folded loosely, robe tied neatly, hair still perfect. She smiled, but her eyes stayed flat and cold. "Good night, Maya," she said softly. And I swear to you, the way she said it, I knew deep down that this was only the beginning of something. Stick around because what happened next will blow your mind. The next week rewrote my whole life. My alarm started going off at 4:30 instead of 5. I'd roll out of bed, rub my face, and tell myself, "You can do this." Then head straight for Emma's new crib at the foot of my bed in the staff quarters. Every morning was the same. Before I even reached her, she'd hear my footsteps and start kicking arms reaching up. "Good morning, sweetheart," I'd whisper, picking her up. She'd tuck her head under my chin, like that spot was made for her. We'd do the same dance every day. Bottle bath in the sink, clean onesie, a little time in the stroller while I worked. I'd vacuum with one hand and wiggle a toy with the other. Dust a shelf, then stop to wipe milk from her chin. She'd watch everything with those curious eyes, calm, as long as I was close. The house felt different, though, and not in a good way. Vanessa moved through the rooms like a model on a runway. Slow, deliberate, always put together. But she hardly ever touched Emma unless someone was there to see it. She'd swoop in when Richard's parents called on video, or when one of her friends dropped by in yoga pants and diamonds, and suddenly she was Mom of the Year, kissing Emma's cheeks, bouncing her on her hip. The second they left, Emma went back to me. You ever feel somebody watching you even when they're not looking? That's what it felt like with her. Eyes in the back of my neck. Then the weird things started happening. One morning I walked into the kitchen to make Emma her bottle, and stopped. The bottles I'd scrubbed and sterilized the night before, the ones I remembered lining up on a clean towel like little soldiers, were in the sink, coated in dried formula sticky juice, even grease. It was like someone had grabbed them with dirty hands on purpose. "What is this?" I whispered, picking one up with 2 fingers. I washed them again even more carefully, but the unease didn't wash off my hands. When Emma fussed, I changed her diaper and froze. There across the front of the diaper was a cut. Not a tear. Not a rip. A clean, straight slice like someone had taken scissors and dragged them neatly across. Diapers don't just do that. My instinct screamed at me to keep it. I folded it and tucked it behind a row of cleaning bottles under the sink. "Everything okay, Maya?" The voice slid into the room before the person did. I turned and saw Vanessa in the doorway. Hair-curled silk robe, full makeup at 8 in the morning. "Yes, Mrs. Richardson," I said, forcing my voice to stay neutral. But Emma's diaper was cut. It's not a normal rip. It looks like it was done with scissors. "Cut." Her brows went up, her tone full of fake surprise. "How strange. Maybe it tore while you were changing her." "No, ma'am," I said calmly. "The line is too clean." She shrugged, already bored. "Well, accidents happen. Maybe it was defective. You know how these baby brands are." She poured herself some fancy kombucha and walked out like we were talking about a chipped plate. That was the first time I really felt it. That chill that says this isn't random. Later that week, she had a little tea get-together in the garden. You know the type. Rich women with perfect hair and big sunglasses wearing jewelry that could pay off your mortgage, complaining about private school drama. I set their cups and their vanilla scones down, then parked Emma's stroller nearby where I could keep an eye on her. For a while, everything was calm. Birds chirping sunlight through the jacaranda tree, rich ladies gossiping. Then suddenly, Emma let out a scream that hit me straight in the chest. This wasn't a hungry cry. This wasn't a wet diaper cry. This was a full-body, terrified something is wrong cry. I don't know what's wrong, I stammered as I rushed to her. I checked her diaper. Fine. Touched her forehead. Normal. Tried the bottle. She pushed it away. I picked her up. Rocked her. Whispered, "It's okay. It's okay." But she wouldn't calm down. "Maya, please, Vanessa," hissed through gritted teeth. "We're trying to have a conversation. Take her somewhere else." "I'm trying, ma'am." "She's never screamed like this," I said, feeling my face heat with embarrassment. "Well, maybe you're not doing something right," she said loudly, making sure her friends heard every word. 15 years of spotless work boiled down to one little line. I took Emma inside to the kitchen. It took 20 minutes of rocking her, humming softly for her body to finally unwind. By the time I got back outside to clear the tea set, I stopped near the hall when I heard Vanessa's voice. "I swear she just can't handle the pressure anymore," Vanessa was saying in a low tone. "It's the 3rd time this week. Emma has an episode with her. Poor thing doesn't have much experience." One of the women snorted. "Then why rely on a maid, hire a real nanny? Richard insists on." Vanessa sighed. "He keeps saying she's like family. But honestly, she's getting older. I'm afraid she's slipping." My hands shook so hard the tray rattled. Sandra appeared behind me and whispered, "Ignore her, Maya. That woman's got a darkness in her I've never seen." I didn't ignore it. I couldn't. You can't ignore someone sharpening a knife and calling it a spoon. The next day at dinner, that knife became real. We were in the formal dining room. Richard at the head of the table. Vanessa at his right. Emma in a high chair beside me. Soft music in the background, the city lights glowing through the big glass windows. I fed Emma carrot puree, and she giggled every time I made the spoon dance. "She's eating well," Richard said with a small smile. "You're doing an amazing job with her, Maya." Vanessa smiled tight. "Yes, she is." She reached for her glass of orange juice, except she didn't just reach. I was watching. I saw the deliberate tilt of her wrist, the little flick that sent the whole glass dumping straight into Emma's lap. Cold juice splashed across the baby's chest, soaking her onesie. Emma shrieked from the shock of it, tiny hands flying up. "Oh no," Vanessa gasped. "Maya, why weren't you paying attention?" "Look at her." I just stared at her for a second because I had seen it. I had watched her do it. "Ma'am," I said slowly. "You spilled it. You should have moved Emma when you saw me reaching for my glass." She snapped back. "Honestly, Maya, this is becoming a problem." Vanessa, Richard said, frowning. It was an accident. She pressed her lips together like she was too polite to argue, but her eyes met mine, and what I saw there wasn't guilt. It was satisfaction. Later that night, he called me into his study. "Maya, sit down, please," he said, rubbing his forehead. "Vanessa told me about lunch and the tea party. Are you overwhelmed?" "No, sir," I said quietly. "Emma is always clean-fed and safe. I promise you." "I trust you," he said, and I think he meant it. "You've been here 15 years without a single problem. Everyone's just a little on edge. Just be careful, please." The thing is trust without action doesn't protect anyone. 2 days after that, everything escalated. I carried Emma into the kitchen for a snack. Vanessa was at the island chopping vegetables with a big chef's knife. The blade flashed every time she lifted it. "You're just in time," she said, without turning around. I wanted to talk about Emma's schedule. "Her schedule, ma'am?" I asked, bouncing Emma lightly on my hip. "Yes, her feeding, her naps. Everything needs to be stricter. She's following the pediatrician's recommendations," I said gently. Dr. Harris gave us a chart, and I stick to it. I am her mother, Vanessa said sharply, suddenly spinning around, knife still in her hand. I don't need a doctor to tell me how to feed my own child. I took a small step back. She took a step forward, so she continued, voice dripping. What did you mean when you told Richard you know what's best for her? You act like she's yours. I never said that, I whispered. I just said I'm doing what's best for her. Every time I hold her, she cries. Every time you hold her, she relaxes. She hissed. That isn't natural. She's just more familiar with me, ma'am, I said. I'm with her all day. Right, Vanessa snarled. Because you inserted yourself into her life. I tried to back away, but the counter was behind me. The room felt smaller. Emma squirmed, sensing the tension. Then it happened fast. Vanessa leaned in way too close, way too fast. Her heel slipped just a bit. Her hand jerked, and the knife sliced across her own palm. She screamed, dropped the knife, and grabbed her hand as blood started to drip. What happened? Richard shouted as he ran in. Maya pushed me. Vanessa sobbed, clutching her wrist. She tried to take the knife. She was so angry I don't even know I was scared. That's not true, I cried. She slipped. I didn't touch her, I swear to you. Sandra came rushing in from the patio, eyes wide. I only saw the end, she stammered. The knife was already on the floor when I looked in. See, Vanessa wailed. She was right next to me. Richard looked at me, then at the blood, then at the knife. Confusion clouded his face. Maya, you've been under a lot of pressure, he said. Maybe you should take a few days off. Talk to someone. No, sir, I whispered. Please. You know me. You know I would never hurt anyone, especially not with a baby in my arms. I just think it's best for everyone, he said softly. In one scene, she turned herself into the victim and me into the crazy maid. That night when I finally put Emma down to sleep, I sat on my bed, elbows on my knees, head in my hands. 15 years of loyalty, and somehow I was now the problem. There was a soft knock at my door. Sandra slipped inside and closed it. Maya, something is wrong in this house, she said. That woman. I've worked for some difficult people, but I've never seen anything like her. I know I said my voice rough, and today, I didn't say anything in front of Richard because I got scared. But I saw you, she said quietly. You were too far away to push her. You didn't touch her. You believe me? I asked, looking up. Yes, she answered firmly. But you need to be careful. Don't ever be alone with her if you can help it. What we didn't know was that Vanessa was right outside my door listening, smiling, planning. A month passed, a long month. By then, the mansion didn't feel like a home. It felt like a battlefield where the weapons were whispers, bruises, and carefully placed objects. I moved through it like a soldier constantly on guard. I started documenting everything in a small notebook I hid under my mattress. When Emma ate, how much she drank, when I changed her diaper, when she napped, when she cried, every little weird thing that happened. I wrote down the dirty bottles, the sliced diaper, the accidents, the times Vanessa twisted the truth. Because when you're the maid, your word isn't enough. You need proof. Meanwhile, Emma was growing. She was walking along the furniture now, holding on to couches, bouncing on her little legs. Her curls had gotten thicker, and she'd babble constantly. She started using little words, up no da, and the one that broke everything, mama. But she didn't use it for Vanessa. She used it for me. Every time I walked into a room, she'd stretch out her arms and say it. Mama. Every time I left her sight, she'd whine for mama. Every time I picked her up, her whole body would relax, like she'd just come home. Every time that happened, I could feel Vanessa's gaze cutting into me. Her smile would tighten, her jaw would clench her fingers, would tap something just a little too hard. One warm afternoon, she announced she was hosting another tea. I want my friends to see how well Emma is doing. she said like the last month hadn't happened. I dressed Emma in a light blue dress Richard bought her with a matching headband. She looked like something off a baby clothing ad. At 3 p.m., the house filled with laughter and heels and perfume. Vanessa walked out to the garden holding Emma like she was an accessory. "Ladies, look at my beautiful daughter," she said. For them. "She's adorable. She looks so much like you, Vanessa." I stood by the French doors with a serving tray watching. Emma's eyes scanned the garden searching. Then she saw me. Her whole face lit up. Her little arms shot out toward me. "Mama," she yelled, loud, clear. Every conversation stopped. The women turned and followed her gaze, straight to me. I froze, tray in hand, heart in my throat. Vanessa let out a laugh that sounded like glass breaking. "Oh, you know how kids are," she said quickly. "They get confused at this age. Maya spends a lot of time with her, so she's naturally attached." But Emma wasn't confused. She started crying, reaching harder for me. "Mama, mama." "No," Vanessa muttered through clenched teeth, pulling her back. "No, sweetheart. Mommy is here. I'm Mommy." The tighter she held Emma, the louder the baby screamed. I stepped forward instinctively. "Mrs. Richardson she needs." "Stop," Vanessa snapped softly, eyes blazing. "Don't embarrass me." From where I stood, I could see Vanessa's fingers digging into the soft skin of Emma's arm. Hard. Too hard. Red marks started to bloom. "Mrs. Richardson," I said, my voice shaking but steady, "you're hurting her." "Don't tell me how to hold my own child," she hissed. One of her friends frowned. "Vanessa, maybe let Maya take her." "No," Vanessa snapped. "She needs to learn who her mother is." That was it. I couldn't stay quiet. "I saw you pinch her," I said. The words came out before I could stop them. "You're hurting her on purpose." The garden went silent. "What is wrong with you?" Vanessa screamed suddenly, turning the full drama on. "Are you accusing me of abusing my child in front of my friends?" I saw your hand. I saw you dig your fingers into her." "She's unstable," Vanessa cried, eyes filling perfectly with tears. "She's been saying awful things for weeks. I think she's obsessed with my baby." Her guests shifted uncomfortably, their eyes sliding away from me. No one wants to pick a fight with the rich woman whose house they're drinking tea in. Later, Dr. Harris came again. Not to check Emma. To check on me. "Maya," he said gently. In Richard's study. "They're worried you're under too much stress. Sometimes when people are overwhelmed, they misread situations." "I am not misreading anything I said. Please check Emma's arms, her shoulders. She might have bruises." "Richard and Vanessa said she's fine," he replied. "I don't want to make things worse." "She's not fine," I insisted. "Please. She's in danger." He left the room with a heavy sigh. I sat there, knowing my words were sliding off polished wood and landing nowhere. The next day, Richard's parents arrived from San Diego. They'd heard enough on the phone to make them worried. They came in with gifts and smiles, ready to meet their granddaughter properly. When Emma saw them, she lit up. She babbled, grabbed their glasses, patted their faces with her little hands. But when Vanessa took her, all that joy disappeared. Emma's stiffened face turning blank, then distressed. "She doesn't seem very comfortable." "Sweetheart," Richard's mom said carefully. "She's just shy," Vanessa said quickly. At lunch, they asked about Emma's routine, her feeding schedule, the name of her pediatrician. Vanessa stumbled through the answers, then turned to me for help. I filled in the blanks. Every time I did, I felt the temperature in the room drop a little. "I'll put Emma down for a nap," Vanessa announced after dessert. Emma's room was downstairs. Vanessa walked upstairs. My stomach clenched. 30 minutes later, Vanessa came back into the dining room, face pale, voice shaking. "I can't find her," she gasped. "Emma, she's not in her crib. I swear I put her down and now she's gone." Everything exploded at once. Richard jumped up. His parents looked like they'd aged 10 years in a second. Sandra and I split up. We checked every room, every closet. I kept calling Emma even though she probably couldn't answer. Then I heard it. Faint. Muffled. A tiny cry like a sound trapped behind a door. It was coming from a storage room at the end of the hallway upstairs. A room that was always locked from the outside. "She's in here," I yelled. Richard's father rushed over with a little multi-tool from his pocket, fiddled with the lock, forced it open. We found Emma sitting on the floor in the dark, cheeks wet, body shaking, little hands clutching the air. "How could she end up in a locked room?" Richard's mother cried. "It must have been Maya," Vanessa said coldly. "She forgot she put her there." "I told you she's slipping." "That's not true," I said, feeling something inside me. Crack. "You took her upstairs. I saw you." "Richard." "I'm scared," Vanessa said later, voice trembling as she made a call. I could hear through the thin walls. "Maya needs to go. She's not safe around Emma." That night, Richard stood in the doorway of my little room. His jaw was tight, his eyes hard. "Maya. He said you have 24 hours to prove you didn't do this. After that, you're gone." Emma was in his arms, reaching for me, screaming "Mama, Mama," like she was being pulled away from oxygen. I kissed her forehead, whispered, "I'm not leaving you." But he carried her down the hall anyway. Her cries echoed through the vents. And then, I heard Vanessa's voice float through those same vents. "Cry all you want, Emma," she said, her tone playful and cruel. "Tomorrow she's gone for good. You ever sit in a dark room with the clock ticking louder than your own thoughts, knowing you have one day to save a child and clear your name?" That was me. No lawyer, no money. Just a notebook and a heart that refused to give up on that baby. If it were you, what would you have done? The next morning, before the sun even fully came up, I walked into the kitchen, eyes burning from no sleep. Sandra was standing at the counter holding a mug with both hands, like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "Maya, I heard about their 24 hours, she said. We don't have much time. I have my notes," I said, my voice hoarse. "But they'll say I wrote whatever I wanted. They'll say I'm crazy." Sandra swallowed hard, then looked me straight in the eye. "Yesterday at the tea party, I saw her pinch Emma," she said. "I saw it with my own eyes. I was scared to say anything. But if you get fired, Emma will be alone with her. I can't live with that. I'll tell Richard." For the first time in weeks, hope didn't feel like a joke. At 9 a.m., Dr. Harris came back. This time, Richard said it was for a full check on Emma before we make any decisions. Vanessa held Emma in the dining room looking like a pale, fragile version of herself. But the baby barely whimpered. Her eyes looked sunken, her movement slow. Dr. Harris lifted Emma onto the table and started examining her. He checked her eyes, her mouth listened to her chest. Then he rolled up her sleeves. The room went silent. Bruises. Small, faint, but clear. The shape of fingers. Thumb on one side, 4 on the other. Some were fading yellow older. Some were fresher. "These aren't from normal bumps," he said. Voice suddenly sharp. "These are pinch marks. Repeated ones. Dr. Baby's bruised so easily," Vanessa said quickly, a weak laugh escaping. "She's always bumping into things. She just started pulling herself up. Not like this." He cut in. "And some of these are days old. This is not normal." Richard looked at me, then at Vanessa, then back at Emma. His face turned gray. "Maya," he said slowly. "Did you do this?" "No," I said, my voice steady this time. "I would rather die than hurt her." As if to confirm it, Emma wriggled off the table, crawled straight across the floor, and wrapped herself around my leg. "Mama, stay," she whispered, clutching my pants. "Stay." Right then, Richard's parents walked in. His mother put a hand over her mouth. "Oh my God," she whispered. "Look at her. She's clinging to Maya like she's the only safe place in the world." "We need the truth now," his father said, his voice like a gavel. Dr. Harris crouched down so he was level with Emma. "Emma," he said gently, "who hurt you? Who made your arms ouch?" What happened next still gives me chills. Emma lifted her hand and pointed. "Not at me. Not at some corner of the room. Not at the table. Straight at Vanessa. Hurts Emma," she said, touching one of the bruises on her arm. "Mommy hurts. Here." The air left the room. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. "She's confused," Vanessa snapped. "She's just saying things. Maya's been filling her head. She's a baby. She doesn't know what she's talking about. She's just repeating words." But Emma wasn't finished. She turned and pointed toward the big glass doors that looked out over the backyard. More specifically, toward the side of the house. "Litter," she said, fumbling the word. "Emma in litter. Maya save Emma." Richard's knees almost buckled. Because I had never told that child she was found in the trash. I would never say that to her. And I knew he hadn't either. Only two people knew that detail. Richard and Vanessa. Maya never told her that he whispered eyes wide. "Only you and I knew she was found there, Vanessa." I watched Vanessa's face crumble. The polished, perfect mask she always wore cracked, and for the first time we saw what was underneath. That kid ruined everything she spat. The sweetness was gone, just rage. You think I wanted some stranger's baby dumped on me? You think I was going to let her take my life, my future, my inheritance? Stranger's baby, Richard repeated slowly. "What are you talking about?" She realized what she'd said, but it was too late. She stuttered. "I was overwhelmed. I didn't mean. You put her in the trash." Richard said the words landing like stones. "You tried to get rid of her, didn't you?" "No," she screamed. I can't explain. I was scared. I didn't think. That's when the front door opened. Two police officers stepped inside. Richard's father had called them as soon as he saw those bruises. "Vanessa Richardson," one officer said, "you are under arrest for child endangerment, child abuse, and obstruction." "This is a setup," she shouted as they pulled her hands behind her back. "Richard, do something. How can you just stand there? Are you really choosing the maid over me?" He didn't move. He didn't say a word. For the first time since I'd known him, he looked at me not as the maid, not as the woman who did the laundry and scrubbed the floors, but as the person who had been protecting his daughter when he wasn't looking. "Maya," he said, his voice breaking. "I am so sorry." Emma clung to my neck as we watched them lead Vanessa out of the house, screaming and kicking, still blaming everyone but herself. Her little body was shaking, her fists tangled in my collar. "It's over," I whispered into her hair. "You're safe, baby. You're safe." Do you think that's fair? That it took bruises? A baby's words and a full confession before anyone believed the maid. Be honest with yourself. 3 weeks later, the mansion looked the same, but it didn't feel the same. The marble floors still shone. The glass still reflected the city. The fancy art on the walls still made me roll my eyes sometimes. But the air was different, lighter. The tension that used to live in the corners of every room was gone. No more watching my back every second. No more listening for a pair of heels in the hallway waiting for the next setup. Emma was different too. She laughed more. She babbled in full sentences of baby talk, waving her hands around. Her bruises faded. She slept through the night, no more waking up screaming. Sometimes I'd just stand in the doorway of her room and watch her breathe, feeling this wave of gratitude that we'd made it to this side of the story. One warm afternoon, I sat under the jacaranda tree in the backyard. Purple petals were scattered all over the grass. Emma sat on my lap, playing with them. She'd pick one up, study it like it was a gem, then press it into my palm. "For Mama," she said. I don't think I'll ever get used to that word coming from her lips. It still hits a place in me I thought was buried forever. "Thank you, baby," I said, kissing her forehead. Sandra came out with the tray of lemonade, and shook her head at me with a little smile. "You saved her life, you know," she said. "Maybe she saved mine too," I answered. Up in his office behind the big glass window, I could see Richard watching us. He stood there for a long time, hands in his pockets, just looking. Then he came downstairs and walked out to where we were sitting. "Maya," he said, stopping in front of us. "Can I talk to you for a sec?" Of course, I replied, shifting Emma on my hip. He took a breath. "I want you to stay," he said. "Not as staff, as Emma's full-time caregiver. A real salary benefits your own space, everything. Whatever you need to feel secure and respected here." My eyes burned. "It would be an honor," I said quietly. He nodded. "You're the only mother she's ever really known," he said, looking at Emma. She wrapped her arms around my neck, laid her head on my shoulder, and mumbled "Mama home." 2 little words. That was all. But for me, those 2 words stitched together 10 years of grief, guilt, and emptiness. For the first time since I buried my daughter, I felt like I wasn't just surviving. I was home too. So that's my story. The short version of a long nightmare. A billionaire who trusted the wrong person. A baby left in the trash behind a mansion. A maid who was supposed to stay invisible until she refused to. Now let me ask you something. Do you think justice was really done here? Yes, Vanessa got arrested. Yes, Emma is safe for now. Yes, Richard woke up and saw the truth in the end. But what about all the times stories like this don't reach a doctor who pays attention, or grandparents who care, or a baby who's old enough to say, "Mommy hurts"? How many times do the rich, charming abusers get believed, while people like me get labeled unstable or overly attached? How many kids are crying in trash situations? No one wants to see, because it messes up the picture of a perfect family. If it were you, would you have stayed in that house after everything? Or would you have left and never looked back, no matter how much you loved that child? Do you think Richard deserves sympathy for how easily he was manipulated? Or should he have noticed the signs sooner? Be honest. If you were in his shoes, would you have believed the maid over your glamorous fiancée? I'm still figuring out how I feel about some of it. Some days I look at Emma, and I'm just grateful. Other days, I remember the knife, the diary under my mattress, the sound of her crying behind a locked door, and I realize how close we came to losing her for good. But I'll tell you this, the next time someone tells you the help is overreacting, or a child is just confused, I hope you remember my story. I hope you listen a little deeper, look a little closer, because you might be standing in the middle of a disaster and not know it until it's too late. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think the system protects people like Emma enough? Do you think maids, nannies, housekeepers should have more power to report abuse without losing everything? And what do you think is the right punishment for someone who tries to literally throw away a child to protect their lifestyle? Tell me in the comments. Agree with me. Argue with me. Share your own stories. If you've ever not been believed or been blamed just because of your job, your status, or where you live. I read those stories. They matter here. If you listened all the way to the end, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe if you want more real stories like this. And tell me where you're watching from, because somewhere right now, another Maya is holding another child, wondering if anyone will ever take her side. And maybe your comment, your voice, your attention is part of the difference.